Here's what our good friends at Ubisoft had to say about today's story. The additional packs are entirely optional extras for players who want them, never a requirement to enjoy or complete the game. So that's Ubisoft's line. You do not have to buy the $85 worth of cosmetic DLC that they've just bolted onto their remake of a 13-year-old game. And you know what? Fair enough, you literally don't. But surely, Ubisoft, all that means is you didn't have to make them in the first place, right? I mean, if I don't have to buy them to have fun, then maybe you didn't have to bother making them. But obviously, there's a reason why they rammed them in there, and today's video is going to be going deep into that. But as for the game itself, obviously, it has been a hit. 2 million copies sold at launch, critics rating it amongst the best Assassin's Creed games in years, and under the hood, it is seriously impressive. They've taken a game people love, a game that I love, they've done it justice, even if, yeah, not every change, like say, especially the combat, has gone down quite so well. Overall, it's been good. Though realistically, this was always an open goal for Ubisoft. It's a game with an established audience getting a good version. I mean, it's a game that we already know people and the market does like. So it's no surprise that Steam player numbers opened to be the highest the franchise has ever seen and spiked 100,000 over the weekend. Good stuff for Ubisoft. But if you scroll down in Steam, especially around launch, you see a very different story. A very negative-looking story. So the question is then, why would Ubisoft make these packs at all? Why is something so bizarrely pointless and also completely anachronistic, completely clashing with the game itself, even in there? Why is Ubisoft taking this opportunity to make their gorgeous game look so damn cheap? Let's kick things off with the reviews, which started at mostly negative. They were under 40%, which is pretty brutal. Now, as I record this, they are climbing up to mostly positive, above 70%, and comfortably so, which is a fairly impressive recovery. But something set all those people off in the first place, and these were not fringe complaints. It wasn't things like, say, how the Ubisoft Barcelona team helped ship the game. I believe they did loads of the underwater levels, and if you look at the underwater levels, they are visually stunning, they're gorgeous. They were rewarded for that by getting hit by a wave of layoffs. But no, that's not why the reviews are negative. So let's take a look at the most helpful review according to Steam users, and I'll cut the part about a bug causing 30 frames per second cutscenes. Here it is. Have I bought DLC? No. Do you want to buy DLC? No. Do you want to buy DLC? No. Menus are a cash grab for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Launch Shadows to see stats for item. Seriously, the game itself is beautiful and a well-made remaster of an original legendary game, but modern Ubisoft always finds a way to fuck things up. I want a single-player experience I can enjoy without microtransactions and without menu advertisement for Assassin's Creed Shadows being forced down my throat. Brilliant remake, awful studio. Yeah, not the happiest review. And in fact, there is a lot true there. Black Flag Resynced did indeed launch with around $85 worth of DLC on day one. There's cosmetic packs, weapon packs, and even a paid tool to highlight collectibles for you. That is the definition of create the problem and sell the solution. And in terms of game design incentives, that's a pretty damn perverse one, isn't it? Now, all of that is sitting alongside weekly missions that tie into the meta-narrative and feed you progression rewards in-game. Which may be odd if you've only played the older games, but actually since Origins kind of went full RPG, this has very much been their playbook. Hyper monetization, hyper engagement. None of that was there when the original came out in 2013, and now we see that it has been shoehorned in to a game that of course costs $60 at launch. Now, Ubisoft have actually seen the complaints. They've even been replying to some of the reviews, trying to soothe the fear out for people. And their message is, your $60 has got you the full game. But if that's the case, why do people feel bad? Ubisoft said this: "We want to be clear on one point. The standard edition is the full, complete experience. Every mission, every island, the full story, and the complete world are all there with nothing held back. The additional packs are entirely optional extras for players who want them, never a requirement to enjoy or complete the game." And the thing is, right? They are not lying here. You don't need any of these things, so don't buy them. But of course, the packs are there anyway, and so too are the weekly challenges and all the other engagement-boosting features. And they're all there for one simple reason. Black Flag Resync costs $60 right now. Ubisoft will of course be thrilled with the 2 million copies they've sold. Maybe 3 million by the time you watch this video, but the game won't cost $60 forever. And when Ubisoft makes a new single-player game in the modern day, they think about the long term. and they think in terms of engagement and in terms of sales. This is where we can look into their financials. Last year was not a great one for Ubisoft, I think we all know that, but we can take a look through their financial report to see the details, and this is where it actually is interesting. That year, they had no major franchise releases, and that meant that they recorded 1.525 billion euro in bookings, which was down about 17% from the year before. But of that, 1.281 billion came from back-catalogue sales. That's 84% of the year's total take. Or another way of putting it is more than 5 in every 6 euros that Ubisoft made last year was from games that they had already shipped. And to be specific, that's revenue from every game that came out before the current financial year. Those are games that probably don't cost $60 anymore. Now, some of that will of course be live games like Rainbow Six Siege, maybe a bit less so than in prior years, which is why Siege has just angered its players as well, with a new, far less consumer-friendly way of buying event cosmetics. But plenty of that will have came from their single-player titles sold at a discount. And DLC packs, like the ones that we've seen release with Black Flag Resynced, well, they are designed to supplement that income. You see, you, maybe a year in the future, buying this game for 50% off, are of course still putting money in Ubisoft's pocket. Less money because of the discount, but if Ubisoft can make up the difference between that and full price with in-game cosmetics, then they will be very happy and the business model will be completely justified. And if you take a look at their financials through the years and how they are so reliant on their back catalog, it seems that broadly works out for them. But what I'd like you to do is think about what we've been covering in the channel with DLC for older games. A great example of that is Witcher 3 Songs of the Past, maybe Diablo 2's Warlock class. Those are big, substantial updates designed to give people who don't want to move on to the next game something to chew on. And of course, for the company, it means got all these gamers who just like the old version, may as well make some content for them and get some money. That is, I think, a cool enough trend, but it's not what Ubisoft's doing here. Again, take a look at the Black Flag Resync DLC. The most gameplay impactful pack is the one that shows you where the collectibles are. And the funny thing about it is a guide and a bit of cross-referencing gets you that same thing for free. So what Ubisoft are really doing here with their open worlds is kind of padding. And honestly, it's not too far off what, say, Capcom get criticized for with the launch of their games, where there's all these, on the surface level, innocuous little microtransactions that can just add up and up and up and up. And while the idea of actually buying those things may seem insane to you, it certainly seems insane to me, well, Ubisoft knows that a lot of their games are bought by people who only buy a handful, maybe 2 or less games a year. So what that means for their business model is all of those engagement-boosting weekly missions and dopamine-inflicting rewards are, of course, going to have to be in this remake of a single-player RPG because they need to keep people playing, and playtime is the one thing that correlates most strongly to people doing further purchases. It's only at that point, after dozens and dozens of hours, that Ubisoft would even expect one of those things to actually sell. And what's been reliably demonstrated is the more time you put into a game, the more likely you are to actually buy something that is for sale within that game. So it's only after dozens of hours of play and many weeks of doing weeklies that Ubisoft expects to sell these types of cosmetics to the people who, for whatever reason, are just going and grinding their dailies and almost playing a game like Black Flag as if it was an MMO. That's likely the main category of person they're targeting. Of course, the other one is people picking up the game for the first time whenever it's, say, a few months or a few years down the road where everything is going to be on discount. And the thing is, this costs Ubisoft next to nothing, bar some skin design and implementation. Of course, this is all extra cash for Ubisoft, cash that they desperately need. It's more money wrung from their audience on the one bit of their business that they can guarantee will just about always exist. Because even though Ubisoft has had nothing but bad news for years and years and years and years, they still have a chunky back catalog that reliably performs. Not that that's been enough to save their corporate story, because here's their problem. They have spent so long trying to get new games out that they're actually starting to warn investors about missing the boat. Here's the fascinating bit. Stephen Totillo over at GameFile combs through annual reports every year for changes, and this time, Ubisoft had quite a few of them. And among them, they've stopped framing microtransactions as being fun for customers. Maybe that's because that line kept generating negative headlines for them. And what they've done then is they've actually called out a new risk to investors. And here's the risk. Quote, releasing a game too late when the market anticipation has waned and it no longer meets market standards in a highly competitive environment. Words go on, but that really is the core bit. Now, of course, Black Flag Resynced is clearly not one of those games. I didn't intend this pun, but it has not missed the boat. And certainly by Ubisoft standards, this game was turned around quickly. Kotaku reported the development in this began in 2023, and according to Insider Gaming, it would have actually shipped in November 2025 if Ubisoft hadn't delayed everything. Thankfully they did, though it seems the delays were worth it. Now, add to that it was being led by Ubisoft Singapore. Yeah, them. Remember when they used to be in the news all the time with Skull and Bones? And this is really exactly the type of development that they want to champion going forward. Fast development, heavily subsidized by the Singapore government, and a near guaranteed chance of success because, of course, it's a remake of a good game that already has a built-in audience. You can really see the likes of this as a safe spot, and that's because everywhere else in Ubisoft's portfolio, as they restructure, everything's basically up in the air. So because of all that restructuring, there is the risk of more years like last year, where more than 80% of the company's bookings are coming from old games. And if you put it all together, Ubisoft needs these games earning more, and they need them to be earning more over even more time. They need that all while the games themselves are developed quite a bit quicker, as was done with Black Flag. Now, that doesn't mean that they need to offer you something that's actually worth the money. In fact, what if I told you that that's kind of what they are banking on? The fun thing about all this is that Ubisoft's plan for these DLCs relies on one key clause of their statement: never a requirement to enjoy or complete the game. Remember, this is the company that cancelled advanced access on the last Assassin's Creed game because they basically couldn't afford for players to feel shortchanged. That was, of course, whenever their PR was really at an all-time low. So, for their single-player games, unless they're shipping full expansions, players can never really feel like content has been cut from a base release. They know that that doesn't work. If you anger those people, you'll get bad press, and that bad press may indeed hit sales negatively. And if that happens, then there won't be enough of an audience left to actually top up their coffers with DLC sales, right? So, if the game gets a bad rap, that really is quite bad for them. And that means that whenever Ubisoft tells you the packs are entirely optional, well, they're describing the design. The whole model here depends on you ignoring them at $60 and still being around to buy them at, say, 50% off sometime in the future. So right now, as Black Flag Resynced climbs up to its positive reviews and incredible sales, it does seem that Ubisoft's plan is working. And while I will never understand it, when you look at their financials, when you look at the performance of their back catalog, there are motherfuckers out there buying really old Ubisoft games, and whenever they buy that single-player RPG with, no social, no multiplayer stuff, it does actually seem that they buy the cosmetics. I don't know what they gain from the cosmetics, I don't know why it's a good use of people's money, but hey, Ubisoft puts the consumption opportunity into the game, and yeah, people do it. I think, of course, whenever you can pick up a game like, say, Odyssey for, £5? $5? Maybe people just have some goodwill to it, and maybe they feel that the game has got so much content and can literally give them, hundreds of hours of gameplay. Why not throw some more money into it? When we see games launching in bizarre states like this one, where there is a store and basically there is advertisement within the game menus that seemingly are just full of mobile game tier cosmetics, it's not there for you. But of course, it's our friends at Ubisoft. They've been doing this for a long, long time indeed, and I've almost been nostalgic as I've seen the initial backlash to this. That's it for now, but don't worry, there is this video that you can watch next.